Good afternoon, everybody. This is Frank Messina, and I'd like to welcome you to the Town of Chatham Historical Commission meeting of November 17th, 2020. Please note, this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for a scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone, tablet, or computer device. If anybody else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Hearing none, assume no one is recording. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 30A-18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance, members of the public will be permitted, but every effort we made to ensure that the public can adequately assess the proceedings as provided in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. The conference ID is 153-417-688. Hashtag.
From your calendar.
Please turn your microphone off.
Frank, is
Yep.
Jane, the conference number is the phone is 668.
Thank you very much, Jane.
You said 688.
Despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, and we'll post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. We'll try to keep the meeting as normal as process, but unfortunately we have to do roll calls for every vote. And I would like to ask citizens and board members, when they call in, give me their name, or if you're using a phone, the last 4 digits of the phone number for identification purposes. Okay, I think we can proceed. I'm going to perform a roll call and see if we can have everybody acknowledge. Vice Chair Bob Lear.
I'm here.
Clerk Sandy Porter.
I'm here.
Ben Solozinski.
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton.
Here.
Jane Moffett.
Here.
Don Aikman.
Here.
Alternate Steve Burlingame.
Here.
Very good, Steve. Alternate Erica Maleke. All right, Eric is not here today. She's having problems, but we can proceed. Steve, we have full attendance, so you'll be participating, but will not be voting in any of the actions being taken. Okay, we have a couple of sets of minutes that I'd like to dispose of very quickly. We have the minutes of October 6, 2020. Any members have any comments, corrections, or deletions?
I move
Great.
approval if not.
Bob, say again.
I move approval if there are no
No,
corrections.
I have something. Steph Hamilton,
Go ahead, Steph.
page 3, 4th paragraph, 2nd sentence. It says historical significance. It should be historical significant. Right now it says Cross Street is historical significance.
That's the October 20th minutes.
All right. Did you get that, Michelle?
Mine say October 6th, bud.
It is the October 6th minutes, Steph, you're right, and thank you. I'll see that that correction gets made.
All right. Do we have a second to Bob's motion of the corrected minutes?
I'll second.
Jane.
Thank you very much. Have to do a roll call as soon as I find my roll call. Bob,
Yes.
Sandy,
I have to pass, I wasn't at this.
Ben,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Okay, we have another set of minutes from October 20th, 2020. Any comments, corrections, deletions?
Right.
Frank, I've got a comment on page, or question on page 3, the first paragraph, first line says the proposed work does constitute a substantial alteration. I believe we felt it did not constitute a substantial alteration.
You're right on that, Bob. Michelle, do you have that?
All set, Frank, thank you.
Okay, anything else?
Well, while I'm looking at it, I think there's the same issue on paragraph 3. Oh, no, wait a minute. Paragraph 2, I'm sorry. It says significance when it should say significant.
All right. Michelle, you got it?
The same is true on page 4. It's saying, under motion, under application 20033, it should be, is not historically significant after the motion made by Mr. Leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good job.
Michelle, you got that?
Actually, no, I'm sorry, I missed that. Can you repeat that, please?
Sure. It's the third paragraph under application number 20033. After the word "a motion" was made by Mr. Lear about 424 Stage Harbor Road is not historically significant.
Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you for making Mr. Lear sound coherent.
Any other comments or questions?
I move approval with as amended.
I second, Jane.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, by the way, folks, when you say your name first before you second it, this way we can make it go a little quicker. All right, we have to do a roll call. This is on the October 20 minutes. Bob,
Yes.
Sandy,
I was not in
you're
attendance.
absent. Yes. Ben,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Is it saying as amended?
yes.
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Don,
Yes.
and Steve, you were voting alternate.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the chair votes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much, guys, for keeping me honest. What would I do without you? No comment. Okay, we're going to, with your indulgence, one of the applicants has asked that we move his application to the end, the first one. So we will do that. And so we'll start off with the application, the second one on the agenda for the meeting. Application 20032 to be heard in accordance with chapter 158, 24 Salt Pond Road. This is a continuation of our previous meeting. I believe, and I'm sure you folks will correct me, I think we found the structure to be historically significant. And the applicant had submitted at the last minute an engineering report from Coastal Engineering, which goes on about 14 pages with pictures. And we asked him, and he agreed that we will continue the meeting to today. So having said that, I believe it's Mr. Ford. Michael,
Yes, I'm on, Frank.
thank you very much.
As is Sean Riley of Coastal Engineering, the site engineer. And I believe Ed Acton, is also on, Frank, the owner, together with his wife Cheryl, of the property.
Thank
So
you.
you're right. The commission did make a finding of significance, and we didn't get a chance to go much beyond that. But you had a full plate last time we were on. So what I'd like to do is just give you some background as to some of the information that's behind the Actons deciding to bring in an application to demolish the structure. They are longtime residents in Chatham, and they bought this property. It's their intention to make this their principal residence. After buying it, they conducted a series of due diligence reports. Engineering was one, environmental conservation, and a structural analysis, and then also called on my office to advise them with respect to zoning, and then just all of the land use regulations as they interact with one another. And probably the most significant effect on any plans to redevelop this property is the floodplain. I don't know if you've had a chance, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, to view the site plan, but you'll see, and Sean Riley will speak to this in a minute, that the velocity zone goes through a portion of the structure. The structure is located very close to the revetment on the site. This site now, as a result of changes in the barrier beach, faces out towards the new cut, and the property is now located in a velocity zone. So the difficulty with the velocity zone, I'm going to have Sean Riley speak to that, and then I'll come back and talk to you a little bit about some of the other studies and what the combined effects have on redevelopment, which really was the basis for the Actons having to come in and seek a notice to demolish. So if I could very briefly just have Mr. Riley just review the significance of the floodplain as it intersects on this property, Mr. Messina.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Frank, it's Bob. Could I just intervene for a second? I was just looking at the minutes that we just approved, and I know you said, and Mike agreed, that we had found the property historically significant, but that does not show up in the minutes. So we might want to briefly revisit that after we hear from Sean.
Well, I hear you say about the minutes, but I was sure we did that.
Well, I don't disagree with you. I did not realize it was missing, but now when Mike said it, I then looked at the minutes.
Well, notwithstanding the minutes, we did do that, but I guess what we need to do is
suggesting maybe we should do it again if we're going to be getting involved here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you very much, Bob.
Would you like us to continue, Frank? And obviously,
yeah, let's continue. Why don't we continue? And
okay.
So, yeah, all right. Why don't we continue relative to this element? Go ahead.
So, Mr. Riley.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Sean Riley, Coastal Engineering, representing the applicant. I just want to discuss really briefly the location of the boundaries of the flood zones, because I think it's important to understand the implications of any modifications or improvements to this house. There's a velocity zone, elevation 19, as Mike had mentioned, that runs through the house. So that velocity zone elevation is about 10 feet above the existing grade. Behind that velocity zone is an AE, a still water flood zone, that extends back to the contour of elevation 14. If you pull that down, you can see the 14 contour that is labeled the limit of AE zone and conservancy district, which is essentially up on that hill, up along the hillside. And why that's significant is if we trigger more than 50% of the value of the structure, which there's not a whole lot of value to the structure. If you trigger more than 50% improvements, we're required to meet the requirements for building within the flood zone. So for the velocity zone, if we were to raise this and elevate it in place, the design flood elevation would be elevation 21, which would be approximately 12 feet above the existing ground. The house would have to go up on piles and piers. I wouldn't recommend that they rebuild within this or modify this within this location and spend that kind of money. I would highly recommend that they relocate outside of the V zone and into an area of the property that was further away from the overwash of the revetment, which would push it back into the AE zone. Even if they push it back into the AE zone, elevation 14, the design flood elevation is 15. So if they moved it back into the area of, say, the 10 contour, where that planter is, or even further back, the house would be elevated 5 feet to the underside of the framing. So the framing, assume a foot. So your first floor would be approximately 6 feet above grade. We looked at the structure itself. It has obviously a lot of deficiencies with the current code. It would require an extensive amount of reframing, rebuilding, and not to mention shoring up to pick this up and to relocate it to an area that makes sense on the property. Also, the chimney is acting as the main support of the foundation. The rest of the foundation has settled so significantly that all the floors have basically depressed and are now really the chimney is the only thing holding the bulk of the framing up of the roof and of the floor systems of the first and second floor. So you can imagine the stress that's been put on the rest of the structure. That chimney would have to be removed in order for the house to be relocated. Extensive needle beams and framing would be required to shore this up, and that would be just to move it, to try to square this building back up and put it on a foundation that would be FEMA compliant, elevated up in the air. It just doesn't seem practical or feasible to pick this up and move it into a new location, and we definitely wouldn't advise trying to rebuild it in this location some 11, 12 feet up in the air. With that, I'll turn it back over to Mike.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, just continue on a little bit. So Sean obviously got into the structural analysis a little bit there as well. The biggest takeaway from the structural analysis is that the chimney is really holding up the building. If you had a chance to get inside, I hope some of you did, you'll see that all of the floors, as Sean says, slant towards the outside walls because the chimney's kind of holding up the middle. And the chimney couldn't be saved. So it seemed to me that if they had to raise it up 15 feet where it is, it loses its historical significance, obviously, if it's on piles up that high, even if it could be raised up and saved. And raising it up 6 feet, if you move it towards the back of the lot, would be quite a task as well. And I guess I would ask, would it have any historical significance at that point? It is, a bungalow type building, but once you start to move it, which you would have to do, you can't leave it there in the V zone, and raise it up in elevation. The Conservation Commission obviously is going to want you back behind the 50-foot line from the top of the revetment. So it's going to get pushed back at least that far because they don't let you build a new house within that area, nor would they let you jack up the house in that area. So the Actons kind of saw the handwriting on the wall once they got the floodplain analysis that any attempt, frankly, to redevelop the property where it sits.
Did we lose your mic? Mark, can you tell me what's going on? Or have I been lost?
No, I think we lost Mike.
Okay, while Mike is coming back, I assume
Mr.
he
Chairman,
will.
he's still in the meeting. He might have an issue with his microphone being muted. Let me check.
He's not moving either.
All right, well,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I just got kicked off the meeting, so I just rejoined again. So
Okay,
I'm not sure what it was. So in any event, I know Mr. Acton would like to address the meeting and the members briefly as well, because what's really driving all of this for Cheryl and Ed is the consequences of the combination of the V zone, the floodplain, and having to jack this up so high, that together with the structural analysis with respect to this building. But if you would let Mr. Acton address you as well, I think that would be important, Mr. Chairman.
I will, but I'd like to just pause a second, if I could, Michael. Michelle,
Yes, Frank.
were you able to verify whether or not we did or did not vote for historical significance on the property?
Unfortunately, I don't have my notebook. I had to, I don't. I will tomorrow though, for sure. I'm not seeing harm in redoing it, revoting it, but I don't have it in front of me.
The magic notebook.
I know, I left the office this afternoon to work from home, and I apologize, I forgot my notebook.
All
I
right,
have everything else though.
say again.
I have everything else though.
All right, Michael, what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is just address or redress, whatever the proper term is, the issue of historic significance, because I think it'll put
Okay,
things in perspective. Mike, is that your mind?
that's okay. I mean, according to the assessor's map, it was built in 1900. According to the Macris Form B, it was built in 1908.
Yeah.
On the Form B, it's labeled under architecture as recreation. You know, it's a bungalow type structure. You don't see that many of them. My experience is you see them more up in the Canadian Maritimes than you do down here. But it's clearly over 100 years old, and it is, you know, it's an old beach cottage. So
Right.
I leave it to the commission to make your determination with respect to that, Mr. Chairman.
Right. My memory is that we did have the discussion and did vote, you know, for those very reasons of being a college, a bungalow, and had some historical significance, sufficient enough for us to make a determination that is historical significant. Does anybody else want to comment or their memory on this?
Well, Frank, it's Bob. Maybe Mr. Ford will agree with me, but our memory doesn't count if it's not in the minutes. So I would like to just have it there, which may be important depending on the next determination we make.
Well, if nobody else wants to comment, Bob, can you give me a motion?
Yeah, I move that the Historical Commission find that the building located at 24 Salt Pond Road is historically significant because it is in whole or part 75 years old or more. And we also find it's associated with one or more historical persons or events and the political history of the town, and possesses architectural style in terms of architectural significance in terms of style and method of construction.
Steph, I'll second.
Thank you, Steph. All right. No other comments. We're going to do a roll call. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. Since these are both continuances and I was not at the last meeting when you started these, I'm not sure I should be voting.
fine. You didn't look at the meeting?
I did not have an opportunity, Frank. I'm sorry.
All right. That's okay. Ben,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes,
Jane,
Yes,
Don?
Yes.
Okay,
How about-
and the chair votes yes. All right, let's put that aside and we'll correct the minutes at a later date or recorrect the minutes. All right, having said that, you know, we're indicating that this structure is historically significant, and at this particular point, we're going to regroup, so to speak, and go back. And I think, Ed, you wanted to address, Mr. Acton, you wanted to address the commission?
Yes, if that's okay.
Absolutely, no problem. Go
Okay.
ahead.
This is Ed and Cheryl Acton. We're the owners of the property. We purchased the property several months ago, and originally we had hoped, we thought that that somehow this house would perhaps be a part of the property in the future. But we hired Coastal Engineering. We hired Mr. Ford to do the environmental analysis, the structural analysis of the property. And after receiving those reports, we made the decision that we did not think the house would be able to be saved. And that is when we filed with Historic. And we thought it was important to do our due diligence before we submitted to Historic. And then we also felt we should be honest with Historic with our intentions for the property. And that's led us to here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Ed.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
before we close out and go to your members with respect to your next step, which is the consideration of the imposition of a delay, I would like to suggest to you that if you've been to the site, and I hope all of you did get a chance to get out there, it is at Minister's Point, it's a difficult site. It's not a site that gets somebody to come in there and move this house out. The access is very difficult. So even if a delay were imposed for the purpose of maybe somebody taking it, probably the only way you get somebody to take it is a barge over the water. It would seem to me that that would be a very expensive proposition for the shell of this house that's there, which is clearly just a seasonal shell. And whether, given the fact the chimney is kind of holding it up, whether you can move it at all is really a serious question. So we don't think, even though it was the Acton's intent when they started, that they can use it as part of a redeveloped house on the site, nor do we think it can really get moved off of the site. And so I would simply ask the commission to consider those as you go into the next phase of your deliberations.
Okay, thank you. I think as we indicated or discussions, I know I had visited the site a couple of times and actually met with Mr. Acton on the property when there was consideration of attempting to save the house, which in my opinion is historic. In fact, the entire area at one point was considered for National Register District consideration. And I understand what you've done in terms of the analysis, but well, I guess before I opine any more on it, I'd like to hear if any members of the commission have any of the questions or comments to the applicant or to the engineer.
Frank,
Yes,
and it's Jane.
yes, Jane.
And I have a friend who walks, she lives on Old Harbor Road and she walks down in that area all the time and is very interested in it and probably, you know, could be moved on a barge. So I just throw that out. I talked to her last night, but not about this.
Well, I agree with you, Jane. You know, yes, you could you could do all the analysis in the world. It would be difficult to move it, no question. But the question is whether or not, because of its significance, if it has value, to move someplace else. All right, well, let's continue. That was Jane. Don, do you have any other comments or questions?
I would reluctantly allow this to be.
Don, we're losing you. Hold on.
I would.
Don?
I'm here.
All right, can you start again?
I would very reluctantly approve it being demolished because, unfortunately, location, flood zone, et cetera, is going to be very difficult to do anything with this. So I would reluctantly allow it to be demolished.
You would allow it to be demolished, is what you're saying?
Very reluctantly, yes.
Okay. Stephanie? Stephanie, do you have any questions or comments?
No, I just wanted to say I agree with Don.
You agree with Don?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I think that a demolition delay should not be imposed. It seems to me that although this was historic for its time, it's outlived its usefulness, so to speak. That it's different today when we have kind of a throwaway idea with a lot of things, but this thing truly, with the shifting, with the revetment, difficulty in moving it, the fact that it's, according to Coastal, is on its way to collapse anyway, that I think that it should be allowed to be demolished. And to just try to save what you can from the lumber and anything that would be salvageable from a historic sense.
Thank you. Mr. Lear?
Well, I hate to be the naysayer, but I must admit this is one of my favorite houses and locations in Chatham. And I think we should give it a chance. I'm not talking about an 18-month delay, but at least I know somebody that's interested. Jane does. Give it a shot. And I will also raise the more technical question. Since we found it is historically significant, I don't know how we can find that demolishing it will not materially diminish its historical significance.
Absolutely.
So I'm voting to put a demolition delay on it.
All right. And the chair, I agree with Bob. And in fact, from the moment I saw this cottage and visited, I just felt it just was indicative of a time and an era, which in fact the previous historical commissions were attempting to put this entire space or section of the town as a National Registered District. Unfortunately, it never was done. Not saying it's one of my priorities, but I think I'd like to ask the other commissioners to think about it. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to move it, but if somebody truly would like the house, I think we need to give it a chance. And I agree wholeheartedly with Bob. And if we feel the house is historically significant, you can't actually say, well, it's historically significant, but I'm going to demolish it and it's not affecting the historical significance. So it's incoherent. I believe, and I'd like the other members to really consider what they're saying, that we should impose some level of a demolition delay on this property to see if there is interest, ask the applicant to advertise it, and even if the house is taken away by flaking it, this is a very simply constructed house, in my opinion, of the Craftsman era, and it's almost like an erector set. You take that chimney out, you could take it apart, and you could move it to someplace else. I'm personally extremely disappointed that we can't find a way to keep it on the property. I know in my initial discussions with the applicant, he was thinking about that. And quite candidly, if he wanted to make an investment of the time and money, he could relocate it to another part of the property. It's a pretty big piece of property. And just by elevating his cottage, it doesn't lose its historical significance, Mr. Ford. It still would be there. It's just would be at a higher level. So I'd like to give some time for people to reconsider what they're talking about, which is to demolish and destroy this house. So I would hope that we could find a way to impose some level of a demolition delay to allow something to possibly happen to save this house in some form, either on the property and or taken away and put on another location and reused. That was my speech. Yes.
It's Jay. I want to say that I agree with both Bob and you.
Okay.
It is historically significant, and I do think that we should put on some kind of delay, because how can you say it's significant and then demolish it?
I agree, Jane.
And this person's property is just down the way a little bit on Old Harbor Road.
Mr. Chairman, this is Mike Ford. Could I address the commission at this point?
Yes, you can, Michael, please.
So I think the Actons understand the two sides of the debate here. And, you know, if maybe to move this thing along, I think that some delay, maybe a 6-month delay, Mr. Chairman, where we advertised, Jane got a hold of her person. Mr. Lear has somebody, we got a hold of them right away. I don't think the Actons would be adverse to that if it could get saved. I think they'd actually feel better about it if it could get saved. If somebody was interested in either flaking it or moving it. It just seemed to us that they're not going to be able to use it in their redevelopment plans, but I understand where the committee's coming from, and I understand how you're trying to reconcile the initial finding with another finding under demolition delay. And I'd offer that perhaps as a compromise of 6 months, and we could be very active about advertising it. But if the two members who know somebody could follow up quickly, maybe we could get something done very near.
Frank?
Yes, Ben.
Am I correct when if this is moved or flaked to another site, then it's no longer historically significant? Is that correct?
No.
So a house that's moved to a different site can be still considered historically significant?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob, I think you had your hand up.
No.
I have my hand up, Frank. Steph,
All right, Steph, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, if there was a 6-month delay put on this, would it automatically have to be advertised in the newspaper?
Well, that's the whole question that I would say. You know, I understand, you know, Michael, where you're coming from, you know, but, you know, the question is, if it's historically significant and we're going to put a delay on the property to try and save it, you know, I think 6 months is a little too short. It doesn't really give us time to do everything. And, you know, you can always come back to the commission if after a period of time there is no time, you know, no response, and we can't affect something to try and move the property. So I would prefer, you know, put a year into it with the acknowledgement that you can always come back to us if things aren't happening, and which we've done in the past, and then we can easily, you know, rescind the delay. I don't think you're planning, maybe you are planning to start construction tomorrow, but it'll give us time to try and find a way to save it.
Yeah, they're not planning on tomorrow, Mr. Chairman, but they clearly were planning to get going, you know, next spring. So a year would be a difficult thing. And it seems to me that where two commission members indicated they know somebody who was interested, that you don't need a year to figure out whether that's going to happen or it isn't going to happen. With respect to Stephanie's inquiry,
Yes.
the Actons would be willing to advertise it right away, so that you knew that there'd be an active advertisement in addition to others who have an interest in it right from the start.
Okay,
So,
I hear you, Bob. I hear you, Michael. And I mean, I'm not completely disagreeing with you. I just wanted to give us a little bit more time, but let's see how the commission feels at this particular point without dragging it out. Do we have someone who'd like to make a motion?
Well, I'll give it a shot, Frank. Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated, I'm taking Sean's date, September 16th, 20, will materially diminish the historical significance of the building. Therefore, the commission imposes a demolition delay in the amount of 180 days.
What's that?
Frank, it's Don. I'll second that.
Second by whom? I'm sorry.
By Don?
Don? Okay, we have a second. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Ben?
No,
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
No,
No? Jane?
I want a year delay.
Okay. Don?
Yes.
Okay, and Sandy, you're abstaining because you're absent. So, and the chair votes yes, so that's the motion carries 180 days. If I did my arithmetic correct.
yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I know it wasn't part of the motion, but we are willing to advertise it as well.
Yes, thank you very much. If you could, as soon as you put something together for the advertising, if you don't mind sending it to Michelle, so we could also quickly put it out within the Cape Cod Commission. They have a listserv,
Yes.
which lists potentially historic properties that might be available.
Yes, we will, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your consideration and that of your members.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ed, Cheryl, and lovely spot. Wish you a lot of luck there.
Thank you. And I just want to add that, we will advertise it. We'll make every effort. And having grown up on the Cape, I know flaking or taking apart a structure is a big Cape tradition. And I'd certainly, be willing to help in that effort as well, if that's the end result.
All right. Thank you very much. Michelle, could you please check the minutes and let us know if we have to redo the minutes again next meeting?
Yes.
All right. Okay. We need to move things along here. Mr. 99 Pondview Lane, are you here?
I am here, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for giving me the delay today.
Okay. What I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, I have moved 20025, a continuation of 99 Pondview Lane. So let's do that now. This is a continuation of a hearing, as I said, application 2025, heard in accordance with chapter 158, 99 Pondview Lane. The issue here, very simply, is the commission voted again when the application was presented that it was in fact historically significant. Subsequent to that meeting, the applicant provided extensive information relative to the fact that the house, which we thought was there, was no longer there, that it was in fact 90% of it was demolished and without knowledge of the commission. But that's another story. So having said that, I think at this particular point, it's probably appropriate to rescind our previous determination relative to the historical significance of a property which is no longer there. Discussion? Bob, can you give us a motion?
Sounds like it's a train coming through here.
Yeah, I'm not sure who it is, but somebody's got a mic open.
Yeah, that was me, Mr. Chairman, the applicant. I will go on mute and let you carry your business.
All right. So,
All right, I'm working on it.
we're making Mr. Lear work.
Yeah, well, Frank, you're saying you think the consensus of the commission now is that the building is not historically significant?
Well, that was my view, but I maybe we should discuss it more. And we could do it either with a motion or just have a discussion.
My understanding was that you were going to check with Ms. Donovan about the status of things with regard to a prior circumstance regarding the previous building commissioner, but maybe not.
Well, we did. We did check, and apparently what happened is that we had determined the building to be historically significant. We approved of changes and modification of the structure, but during the construction, the contractor, found some problems relative to the quality of the construction, and the previous building inspector, not Mr. Briggs, went to the site and apparently verbally approved a significant demolition of the property and signed off on it. And there was no record specifically of him, what he approved, nor the fact that it didn't come back to the historical commission. The applicant also provided documentation that I think we all got copies of, a video of what actually happened to the building. So in my mind, the building's not there, but that's just my opinion. So
the point being that the town screwed up and we got to live with it.
Well, I wouldn't use your eloquent words, but
I can do better. But
yeah, and I think we have come a long way with the current community development and the current building department relative to these kinds of things not happening again. So, hey, I'm not saying that we wouldn't have approved it. We must remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's the building commissioner who makes a determination whether something is structurally safe or not. And if he made that determination, that's his job, and that's what he gets paid for. And apparently he made it, but nobody knew, or did we have a record of just what he approved?
Frank, may I ask a question, Steph Hamilton?
Yes, Steph, please.
The house that's standing now, is that an addition that was made to the original house?
The house?
The house that currently stands now was a complete raise of the original, and you'll see that in the videos that I provided.
Yeah, so Stephanie, effectively what they did is they tore down the house, 99% of it, and rebuilt it to look exactly the same. Did I answer your question, Steph?
Yes, thank you.
Ben, you got your hand up? BL? I'm sorry, who's BL?
BL is Bob Lear.
No, it is
Bob?
not.
All right. Does
I
anybody
don't have
else?
my hand up, but Ben does.
Ben, you have a question? Oh, I love this. Ben, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. I'm going to, what I guess, I don't know, at this particular point, I think, ladies and gentlemen, unless there's someone would speak up, I think the proper thing to do is to rescind our previous determination on this particular structure that we're looking at in 2021, whether or not it was or was not historically significant. Because when we looked at it, we thought we were looking at a different structure, which doesn't exist. I guess
I'll make that motion, Frank, if you want.
Thank you very much.
You want a motion?
Yes, please, sir.
All right. I move the Chatham Historical Commission find that the building located at 99 Pondview Avenue is not historically significant because it does not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2, A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Jane, I second.
Jane, second. Thank you. All right, Mr. Lear,
No,
I'm sorry?
no,
No? Okay. Sandy? I guess you need to abstain, Sandy. Ben?
Yeah, I agree with the motion.
Stephanie?
No,
Jane?
Yes.
Don? And the chair votes yes.
may I change my vote? Frank, this is Steph again. May I change it to yes?
Yeah, I have no problem with that. Okay. So what you're agreeing is that it's not historically significant. Okay. All right. I think that's it. No other votes. So the determination is that the property is not historically significant and we do not impose a demolition delay. Please turn that phone off. Thank you. I think it's Chris. Oh, Chris, you're okay now, sir?
Yeah, thank you for your time, guys. I appreciate it and have a good day.
All right. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to move on here.
My initials are finally there.
Okay, please turn off your phone and your microphone. We're going to do application 4B, application 20034 to be heard in accordance with chapter 158, 201 Old Harbor Road. Just bear with me a second while we get the drawings out. Okay, this is a significant application on a property in which we do have a Form B. Which I will find. This original house was built in 1830, circa 1830. And there have been significant changes, but the basic original house still stands. So I guess let's deal with the first section of the conversation relative to whether or not the property in question is in fact historically significant. The applicant is asking for changes to the building, associated building, and some other structures on the property. So it gets a little complicated. So if we can deal with the issue of historical significance, we can then proceed with part B. Does anybody have any comments or question, or does the applicant feel that the property is not historically significant?
No, we agree it's historically significant. We love the house and want to keep it as close to the way it is currently as possible.
Thank you very much.
Frank, can I say something? It's Jane.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
It seems to me that we reviewed this house a few years ago, and on the antique application, the one that's so hard to read, I noticed the date of 2011, and we found it historically significant then.
Yes. Yes. And I'm glad you commented about the hard to read. Whoever printed this needs to be a little more ink in the printer. Okay. So I don't think we have an issue here relative to historical significance. So what we need, in my opinion, is a motion reaffirming our previous decision relative to the historical significance of 201 Old Harbor Road.
Frank, if I could just, it's Bob, if I could just clarify that. I think we were concerned previously with the main house And the current application deals with the 3 outbuildings. And my personal thinking is, I certainly agree that the house is historically significant, but I don't think the 3 outbuildings are.
Right. I
don't
think
want
you
to
can.
include them and therefore say we're going to demolish them, and therefore it doesn't make any sense.
Well, I hear Bob, but I think if we put a motion in place relative to the basic house of 201 Old Harbor Road and not the outbuildings, we can deal with the outbuildings separately.
Okay, that's what I was suggesting, but that
Yes,
is
thank you very
20.
much.
They're all 201 Old Harbor Road.
Yes.
All right. So, would you like a motion regarding the main house at 201?
Absolutely, sir.
All right. Historical Commission finds that the building located at 201 Old Harbor Road is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and is associated with one or more historical persons or events, and possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period and style. The person could be, my wife remembers, who was it, Bunny, that drove the carriage? So it's been around for a while.
Steph,
Okay.
second.
Second, was that Steph?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. Okay. Any other discussion? Thank you very much. Roll call, Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
and Don. And Chair agrees relative to historical significance of the property. Having said that, why don't we allow the applicant to speak up and give us a little idea of what you're planning? And I guess if you won't mind, why don't we deal with the main house itself at first and not the shed or the other elements of the application? Okay?
Of course. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And this is Brenna Melvin. I purchased the property on July 6th of this year. Prior to that, I had a home in River Bay for 20 years. Love Chatham. My parents have retired here. My dad was part of the Restoration Commission for the windmill. And so just happy to be here today. So I wouldn't
drop names if you would, you know.
So we, like you acknowledged, we separated our application into 2 pieces. The first piece is for the main house. The second is for the outbuildings. So we've outlined 6 items that we'd like to complete on the main house. The first is just general repair of the reshingling of the sidewalls, replacing the windows, doors, and rotted trim. They're all in significant disrepair. I look forward to my heating bills this winter. So that's item number 1 on our application. Item number 2, actually, if you don't mind rolling back a few pictures. Yes, please. Thank you. So this represents the side of the house that faces Old Harbor Road. The 3 windows there are all in the kitchen or pantry area. We're requesting that we try to keep the uniformity of the windows. So we'd like to raise the 2 windows, the one on the far right and the middle one, up roughly 5 inches. And then in order to make it a bit more uniform, move the last window on the left over roughly 9 feet to that opening right there, keeping it, you know, the same size, etc., just moving it over. So do you want me to walk through the entire application, or do you want to caucus?
Well, I think what we did, why don't we do this, being we addressed just the historical significance of the main house, let's just deal with that first, if that's okay. It might be easier for us.
Sure.
Okay, so we have, the applicant is putting forward, I guess basically they're not making any changes at all to the original historic home, but some of the later on additions. So does anybody have any other comments or questions relative to the impact of such changes?
Frank, it's Bob.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question on the narrative for the main house, the last paragraph 6, talks about an addition to the back of the house, and the off chance that you're not around and I have to sign off on what they're planning, I don't know what I would be signing off on, given that it's not entirely specific as to what's being planned. The rest of the work, the windows, etc., and the dormer, don't bother me. But I'm just wondering if how you or I would be able to approve the plan that comes in for the addition on the rear of the house.
Is that an addition, or is that
Yes.
just internal changes?
That would be an addition.
Well, I misread that.
Yes, it's roughly 10 by 20.
Well,
And that would be on page 10 of the application.
well, that's what's there now.
Right, and so we showed what we would be planning to demolish, and then we would come out 10 feet and make the width 20. Right now, the width is roughly 22 feet.
Well, I guess I misread that too. We're gonna need to see the plans for that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I misread that myself. Thank you, Bob. You're pretty sharp there, kid. I thought it was an internal change.
No, we'd like to, as you can all appreciate, it's an older home, so there's limited, closets and et cetera. So we would like to bump out from the master bedroom, which is the bottom 2 windows there that you see in that highlighted section. And so we'd like to come out to add a master bath and closets.
All right, is that something you could provide before our next meeting?
Actual plans?
We can
Well,
do a sketch.
We can.
I mean, we don't need the actual 100% detail, especially the interior, but definitely the exterior.
Okay.
It's gonna look like
Yeah.
that wall. That wall is just gonna be
come
brought
out
toward you 10 feet.
Yeah, but we have to approve the plan. In other words, and we can't give that narrative to the building inspector and said it's going to look like that. Get into big trouble. So if you could generate a drawing relative to what it is and where the windows, et cetera, that would be sufficient.
Okay.
All right. Now, Michelle, when's our next meeting?
December 1st.
So then, we would just continue that portion of the meeting for December 1st, I'm assuming, not hearing any questions, that there's a consensus that would probably be approved. Now, let me do that if you don't mind. Let's focus on what we've discussed so far. Does any member of the commission have any, this is just to get the temperature. Are we in general consensus that we would allow those changes to be made? Anybody have a negative feeling?
Frank, this is Steve. I have a question on the photograph number 9. It shows 6 squares in the roof. I'd like to
The other way. Sorry, Frank.
Well,
Number 9, yeah.
So this is a proposed dormer that would go off the back of the house, and it would allow for some storage and office space upstairs. The slider that you see there would goes into the living room, and the rectangular shaped window there just to the left is the bathroom on that floor. So we would.
You're gonna have to show those drawings at the same time.
So I was under the impression that we just needed to show the material that was going to be demoed as.
No, that's not true. You show you show what's going to be demoed and what you're going to replace it with. I'm surprised the application got through, but it did. So, Brenna, you need to do a little more work so we can approve what you're actually planning to do. The idea here is that we approve it, it goes to the building department, and that's what they approve when you ask for your building permit. And if it's different, then we have to reconcile the difference.
Frank, may I?
Right now, we can't approve just the picture like that.
Frank, this is Steph speaking. I just want to ask, are those windows going to be raising the roof at all?
No, they'll be below the roof line, roughly 6 inches below the existing roof line.
Yeah, hopefully something could show that.
Yeah. I'm sorry, the more I look at it.
Frank, it's done.
Yes, sir.
It was my understanding they're going to take the chimney off also. Is that true or not true?
All right, can you repeat the question, please?
Is the chimney going to be removed?
Yes, we would like to remove this chimney. It's crumbling badly and it's actually not functioning. It's not connected to anything on the inside.
As well as leaking.
And it's leaking. We have a kiddie pool upstairs to catch the water.
I think there was an agreement that they would put a faux chimney in place of it.
No, we would. I don't think any decision has been made on that. It's basically a sparge chimney and it's crumbling, and I'm not sure that we should put a faux sparge chimney
If you're representing an old house, this is Steph speaking, they had chimneys.
Oh, we have a
We have a
beautiful
beautiful
chimney at the
chimney,
other end of the
yeah.
house with 3 fireplaces that we want to keep and maintain. It's absolutely beautiful.
Well, so we have at least 2 members who feel we'd like to see that chimney concept repeated with a faux chimney. Does anybody else like to comment on that?
Yeah, this is Steve. I think this is one of those chimneys that is not historically significant and need not be replaced.
Well,
Or real.
I have to agree with you, Ben. Although I'm a chimney guy, I think its location relative to the main house is far enough away to not detract from the historical significance or the streetscape. But to me, it's not a showstopper. All right. Look, can I get a consensus now, guys, whether or not we can approve the application with the proper drawing submitted? Don, you're okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Jane?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd like to see drawings.
Okay, Mr. Lear?
I agree with Sandy. I'm not sure what we're approving. And if God forbid you happen to be away when those things come in, I don't quite know what I'm going to do with them.
All right. So, Brenna, it is Brenna, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. You're going to have to generate drawings to show what you're planning to do, and not just sketches like this. It's a really historic home, as you say, and we'd like to see what you're doing so we can convey them to the building department of what we're approving to maintain the historical significance of the property. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna put that aside, and oh my goodness, 4 o'clock. and deal with the part 2 of your application, which is the demolition of these cottages on the rear of the property. And in that case, you provided a very nice drawing. We can barely see it in terms of the ink, but I think it's very clear what you're doing. And it's just so we understand one another, if we agree that these cottages are not historically significant, then we don't really have much authority relative to what you replace it with. But we do appreciate what you've shown us. So I'd like to, at this point, can you give me just a couple of minutes relative to the cottages and how you feel relative to their historical significance and what you're going to do?
Sure. So we do have information on the cottages to the left and right of the middle structure, and they were constructed on or about 1962 and 1965 respectively. And so we are looking, because they're in, if you continue to scroll through the pictures, they're all in bad disrepair. And we are looking to tear down all 3 structures and build, what we would like to do is to build a similar structure as the old Monomoy Life Saving Station. We thought it'd be kind of a cool piece to introduce to the property, and so that would serve as our garage and guest cottage.
Do you have room on the property for a boathouse?
Yeah. Yeah, well, we'd love to get that. I understand that the town is looking for sites on the water, but if that ever comes available, we would welcome it with open arms.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess the first question we can deal with, as we've bifurcated the proposal into the issue of the cottages relative to the historical significance. Can people give me some opinions so we know where we're going?
Bragg, it's Bob. I don't think they're historically significant, although I do like the one on the right, but it's too trashy to try and save.
Yeah. Sandy?
I'm in agreement with Bob.
Ben?
I like the one on the right.
Ben?
I agree.
Stephanie?
I agree.
Thank you. Jane?
I agree.
Don?
Yeah, I visited the property and was shown around by the owner, and he indicated that the windows on that right-hand building were going to be preserved because they're very unique. The center one, I was the one that determined that it was older than the 40s because of the dimensional lumber in it, but it's in pretty sad shape. So I don't have a problem.
Okay. Brenna, can you speak to the idea about maybe salvaging the windows?
Yes, we'd like to see if we can incorporate those into the structure we're ultimately going to build, just because they are really cool windows. So yes, we'd like to see if we can include those.
All right, so we could dispense with this if we have a motion, because we seem to have agreement that the cottages or the outbuildings are not historically significant, and we are not going to impose any demolition delay. Mr. Lear?
Yep. I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the buildings, the 3 outbuildings located at 201 Old Harbor Road are not historically significant because they do not meet any of the definitional criteria in section 158-2 A, B, or C of the bylaw. Therefore, the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
I second.
Jane, second.
That was Jane. Thank you very much. All right, there's no further question. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Jane, you vote yes or no?
I guess I vote yes.
You guess you vote yes. Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. So, Brenna, we're going to continue the first part of this meeting, and we'll just get a motion now to continue it. And if you don't mind, we'll see you at our, if you can. If you can't make that meeting, then we can move it to the next meeting. So we appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. We need one other motion here, Bob, to continue the meeting.
All right. Michelle, we're talking December 1st?
Yes, the next meeting is December 1st. After that, December 15th.
Now you want
Sorry.
to try for December 1st, Brenna?
I'm not sure we're gonna have enough time. Would it be possible to do the 15th instead?
Yes, absolutely, no problem.
Okay, I move that the Chatham Historical Commission continue this hearing until December 15th, 2020, with the owner's permission.
Yes,
I will
thank
second
you.
it, Steph.
Thank you, Steph. Somebody wanted to say something? No. Okay, we'll do roll call. Bob,
Yes?
Sandy? Sandy?
Yes, yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don? And the chair votes yes. Brenna, thank you very much. We'll see you on the 15th. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe.
Okay. We're not there yet. Application 20035. In accordance with chapter 158, 63 Cross Street. Okay. You pull it out. Hopefully you folks have had an opportunity to visit this gorgeous house. This 63 Cross Street, Italiente, 1877. And the applicant, I guess, is Sean Campbell.
Mr. Chairman, this is Eric Tully from ERT Architects representing Mr. Campbell.
Okay. So just to dispense with the first part of our discussion relative to the historical significance, do you have any comments, or do you in concurrence with that in the house is potentially historically significant?
I think we agree that it is in fact historically significant.
Okay. So if there are no other comments from the members or the public relative to historical significance, Mr. Lear? Robert?
All right.
That's okay.
I move that the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the buildings located at 63 Cross Street are historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and are associated with one or more historical persons or events, or with the social and political history of the town, and possess architectural value or significance in terms of period, style, method of construction.
Jane, second.
Thank you, Jane. No other comments? Roll call, Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don? Donald?
Yes.
Thank you. And the chair votes yes. Interesting, when you read the Form B, that was the owner was the previous owner of the Chatham Monitor, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so we have a house which is historically significant. And there are some changes being made, and I think it was Eric.
Yes.
You want to give us a brief overview of what you're planning?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank all you ladies and gentlemen for conducting these meetings tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for making yourself available to chair these meetings. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank Michelle Clark for her guidance in preparing what I hope will be an informative, detailed, and approvable application. I won't bore you by going through the application in great detail. I'm sure that you all have read it. But my client's intent here is to restore this beautiful house to the splendor that it once had. It is deteriorating badly and has been vacant for quite some time. He's proposing a couple of modest, habitable additions to the footprint, as well as a couple of screen porches, one covered porch, and one of which will be an extension of the north-facing covered porch to wrap around the western facade, which is the front, the cross street facade. And along with, as you can see in my narrative, I've provided you with all of the calculations of square footage of historic materials being lost, including windows. The intent here is to re-roof, re-side, and replace all existing windows as indicated in the plans with new windows to fit in the existing ROs. Trim details will all be matched. New columns and brackets will be fabricated by a company that we use to recreate such details. And we hope at the end of the day, this will continue to be a valuable asset to the neighborhood and to the town of Chatham. So again, I don't want to bore you with too much detail, so I would entertain any questions at this point if you deem it appropriate, Mr. Chairman.
Well, thank you very much. And I do appreciate your application in terms of its detail. One quick question. The other building on the property is pretty much no other changes to that?
The significant changes are on the facade facing Cross Street. We are getting rid of that beautiful Palladian window and replacing it with some double hung windows. But that is the primary facade that's being altered on that particular building.
Okay. Yeah, that Palladium was just kind of not really, well, anyway, I don't disagree with the change. All right. Can we have any comments or questions from the commission to the applicant?
Frank, it's Jane. Can I
Yes,
say,
Jane.
say something about both of these drawings on this proposal show a lot of vertical lines, and I know we don't have any design review, but I was wondering if it really is necessary to bring the porch around in front of the bay window. I've never seen a porch in front of a bay window. I noticed you have one on the side. So could you comment on that?
It was, I think we can all agree what a big, beautiful front yard this property has. And it was my client's hope that by wrapping the porch around the front, that would give he and his family a space to sit outside and appreciate the front yard and those big, beautiful trees that abut the sidewalk on Cross Street. So that was the intent. We don't think that it has an adverse aesthetic impact. The bay window will remain. We're basically just taking the little cap of a roof off that thing has and wrapping that porch that faces the north, faces Kent Street, carrying it across the front. And then you can see on the plans, there is currently an L on the south side. And we will wrap that roof nicely around the south side of the house so that those roof lines, I know you made the comment of a lot of vertical lines, but I think you can see from the south elevation how nicely that roof line will wrap around and incorporate that little jog that's on the south side of the house and carry all the way across. So, you know, we have included significant horizontal components to the design as well. And, you know, we hope given the way that everything melds so nicely that you can find this application approvable.
Thank you for that. It's not a showstopper, just a comment.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I tend to agree with you, Jane, but, okay, that was Jane. Don, do you have any comments?
No, I don't have any problem with it.
Okay, Stephanie?
I don't have any problem with it.
Ben?
I just have a question. This was an inn before and it's now going to be a private home?
That is correct. It's going from an inn to a single family dwelling, correct?
How many bedrooms are in this place?
Oh, gosh.
It's big.
I think there are 11 now, and we will be reducing to 9, I think. It's a reduction. It's a reduction of a couple, I believe. But I think the numbers are 11 existing and 9 proposed.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Sandy?
No, I don't have a problem with it.
Bob?
No, I don't have a problem. It took a while walking around. I usually don't get quite so confused, but I might suggest to Mr. Tolley, at least for my own simplistic reasons, that if you put the proposed and the existing on the same page, it's a lot easier to figure out what's happening. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, I will remember. I will take that in for future reference. Thank you.
Yeah. And the chair, I have no problem with it, but I'm very familiar with the house, having been in it, and the porches do overwhelm me relative to the simplicity of the front of the house, but I don't see it as being that distracting relative to the historical significance of the property. So I would have no problem. Okay, Mr. Lear.
Yes, and just one other minute suggestion for Mr. Tolley. The date was kind of hard to find. If it could be a little more bold somewhere.
Okay.
Chatham Historical Commission also finds the proposed work to be done dated September 22nd, 2020 will not materially diminish the historic significance of the buildings, and therefore the commission does not impose a demolition delay.
Jane, second.
Jane, thank you very much. I just realized that the applicants are from Tennessee. Okay, Mr. Lear.
Yes.
Miss Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
And Don?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Okay, well, thank you very much. I'm glad to see that this beautiful home is going to get a new life, and thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
All right. All right, hope everybody's hanging in there. At this particular point, we have 2 items, 1 item of new business. Excuse me while I get my papers together. We have under new business, we have the first of hopefully some more CPC applications to review. So the application, you have a copy of it. Hopefully you have had a chance to review it. And I appreciate Deborah and Craig's patience. I assume you're still there. This is an application from the Nickerson Family Association relative to the archaeological dig, which was been completed, and some additional analysis. So Deborah, do you want to introduce it?
Sure. Thank you, Frank. I'd just like to thank the commission first for all of your support through the years. The dig has been so exciting, I think, for the entire town, in fact. When we began, we didn't even know exactly where William and Ann's homestead was. And now we know what their house looked like. We know what they ate. We know all kinds of things thanks to Craig and his team, who have been out there digging over 2 seasons and more. The lab tests that we're hoping to move on to will tell us more about the total environment that William and Ann moved into. It'll tell us about the flora and the fauna, and even when the Native Americans left the site. So I'd like to turn this over to archaeologist Craig Chartier to answer any specific questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Craig, can you give us a little overview of what you're planning to do? And I think that would be helpful.
Sure, that sounds good. Yeah, basically what we're trying to do now, we finished up all the archaeological work at the site. We don't plan on going out and doing any more work, so we won't be coming back to the commission for any more CPA money in the future. And what we're trying to do now is just to finish up the lab portion of it. We're looking at some flotation work. We have hundreds of soil samples that we saved during the excavations. Basically, we took bags of soil, and we're going to be putting those into water and floating them to recover things like insect parts, snail shells, seeds, all things that'll tell us about the environment at the site and what people were eating at the time when people were occupying the location. As a result of that flotation, we're going to have the botanical analysis done, which means identifying exactly what the different plants are that are present inside the flotation samples, looking for European grains and native plants, and try to see what the Nickersons were eating at the site. We've already recovered things like corn, 17th century corn, 17th century beans, 17th century spices too. I forget exactly. I think it was allspice. We had recovered. Those are large seeds. Those are all big things. But now we're hoping to recover the very small things and getting those identified. And we're hoping that work will be done. The analysis will be done by another one of the participants in the dig, Blaine Borden from Dennis. He's a student up at UMass Boston, specializing in this sort of thing. Along with that, we'll be submitting a number of radiocarbon samples. On the very last day of the dig, back in 2019, just as we were getting ready to fill everything in, we found a large Native American storage pit that was just stuffed full of shells and pieces of Native American pottery, flakes of stone, and those kinds of bits of debris. And we want to try to find out if that feature, that shell pit, was used at the same time the Nickersons were living there, or just prior to when the Nickersons were living there, or an extended period before they were there. So we want to send out samples of that for dating, and also samples of other shell from the site that we know came from a fairly substantial shell bin that was at the site, a large pile of shells and debris that the Nickersons had dug through to actually level the site. We want to try to date that as well, and that'll give us a better idea when Native Americans were using the site, and possibly why they allowed the Nickersons to settle there, what the site was being used for, and when it was. One of the really important things we found at the site, even more important than William Nickerson, William and Ann's house, was evidence of smelting, that they were taking bog iron at the site. It seems like William Nickerson was taking bog iron and actually smelting it, trying to produce iron. And this is the only site on Cape Cod and one of the few sites in New England to ever produce any kind of evidence of this kind of metallurgical work. And so we want to have these unique and rare samples sent out to be analyzed, so that someone who's a specialist in this sort of field is able to tell us more about exactly how efficient the smelting was, maybe where the raw materials were coming from, and to what degree William Nickerson was actually processing iron. And then finally is some conservation that needs to be done on some of the artifacts that are at the site. They're in a stable condition now, but some of the really important artifacts like the 17th century brass spoon, the 17th century bed warmer that we found, the shoemaker's knife, which again is something that's never been found anywhere in New England. It's completely unique to New England. All those things are stable right now, but they could continue to deteriorate in the future, and so those all need to be conserved, and so those will need to be sent out somewhere to be conserved, and then they'll be able to eventually go on display. And so that's basically what we're hoping to do with the grant money this time. And I think this will be the final. So this will button it all up, and this will be the final step in the project before we write the book, of course.
Well, it's really exciting. At least my personal, it personally it really reinforces something from my perspective, is that when you've completed this work, assuming the grant is approved, I really would like to take it all to the next step, which is applying to Mass Historic, and then eventually to get a National Register designation of this particular archaeological dig. I think it's really exciting to Chatham and for the whole all of Cape Cod. So great. All right. So I think I've given you my intention, but other members of the commission, traditionally what we do here is if we concur that what the applicant is applying for is truly relative to preserving or really eligible for historic preservation funds, and then we generally will take a vote if we agree, and then you authorize the chairman to write a letter of support to the Community Preservation Committee indicating how we feel about the application. So having said that, Bob, go down the list. Bob, any comments or questions or feelings?
I do have a question on the last thing that Mr. Chartier discussed, the conservation of aspects. I happen to be the president of the Chatham Conservation Foundation, and I note in the narrative it says that you do have the permission of the owner. I, in fact, don't have any recollection of granting permission for this particular aspect of things, but I would like to make sure that there's some collaboration in the future with our executive director regarding what's going on with these artifacts. We worked very well together on the coins, and I don't think there's any problem, but I just want to caution you about shipping these things off someplace to have something done for them because you don't own them.
Yeah, I'm sorry that wasn't in the actual grant application. That was something that we had discussed, to making sure that the actual owner of the property is informed about everything that's going on. Yeah.
Well, informed of and agrees to.
And agrees to.
Yeah. I just want to say, I'm sorry, Bob, that was my oversight, and I will rectify that, and perhaps we need a formal letter from you, and I apologize.
I think that'd be a good idea. I would like to take it to my board, which is meeting on December 1st. So
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that's a good catch, Bob, because then it will help you when you get to the Community Preservation Committee in answering that question. So that's good. All right. Bob, Sandy, any comments or approval, non-approval?
I like the application. Yes, I approve.
Very good. Ben?
No problem.
Steph?
Very, very exciting. No problem.
Jane?
I like the project. I'm an amateur archaeologist myself.
Don?
Yeah, I think it's great. Just quick question. What is the beautiful fabric behind your head?
Oh, behind me? That's a tapestry that we have over our bed.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm not sure even where we got it. We got it years and years ago. Thank you.
I was enthralled by the airplanes flying on the other side, but that's another story.
Well, you never know what other people can see when you're doing these kind of meetings. So.
That's right, correct. I mean, and nobody could see my filthy office. Okay. And the chair agrees. So I think the motion, which I'm looking for, is approval of the application and authorizing the chair to communicate to the CPC. I think I just made the motion.
I second it, Jane.
I just said so moved, so you got it.
Okay, very good. We have to do roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Don? And the chair votes yes. Well, again, thank you very much, Craig and Deborah. Good luck. You certainly have our support. And let me know when you're going to the CPC. You know, it's always like to be there and lend your support if necessary. Okay.
We haven't met yet this year.
Say again.
CPC, yeah, I'm having trouble.
Yeah, CPC. What you're doing it virtual, I assume.
We haven't met yet this year.
Do you have a meeting scheduled?
Nope.
Who's the chair?
Michael Thomasette.
Okay. Well, I guess you're going to be having a meeting soon. I know of at least one other application that's coming your way. So, well, that's a separate issue. Deborah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Allie?
Frank?
Yes.
It's Jane. Unfortunately, I have to leave the meeting now to get to Fontaine.
No problem, Jane. Absolutely. Thank
Sorry.
you very much for your
Sorry.
participating, and good luck. All right, Allie, trying to move along. We got 15 minutes, guys. Allie, have given you a handout, and we're trying to make this as quickly as possible, but are you with me, Allie?
Yes, Hank, thank you.
Okay, sorry we couldn't get to you sooner, kid.
That's okay.
All right. Why don't you, let me just briefly introduce to the members and what's going on. We have been talking about and working on the potential zoning bylaw changes to enhance historic preservation. In our last discussion, we agreed to separate the issue of dimensional requirements and host lot and proceed with the dimensional as a better way for chances of approval to simplify the whole question. Ally has done a great job here, and she's provided two proposals, drafts to continue the discussion. So Ally, why don't you take over? Thank you.
Great, thanks, Frank. So the last time we had discussed this, as Frank said, we wanted to separate the host lot incentive and also the dimensional standards incentive, just so that we could be clear about which, that there are two incentives proposed, and we were hoping to maybe decide if we wanted to do one incentive or potentially go forward with both incentives. So as I was starting to kind of go through the bylaw and really nail down and separate the host lots and the dimensional standards bylaw, I was going through it, and I really had to fill in a few things that we had already previously discussed, and I thought that were, potentially missing from the proposed draft before. So I just wanted to bring it back to the commission before we kind of moved on. I know last time we had discussed potentially bringing it to town council, but like I said, I really wanted to bring it back to the commission first to go through all the changes that I made and kind of filled some things in, just to hear what you guys thought and to get some feedback regarding that. So I'm going to go through the host lot first. So the purpose section, I kept the same. The changes that I made are obviously in red, and I, put a line through the things that I deleted from the original bylaw. So again, one of the questions remains, should the special permit granting authority, so the board who grants these proposals or applications, should it be the planning board or ZBA? I think that we were leaning towards the planning board in previous discussions, but I really just wanted to make sure we kept them both there for now until the commission really decides. So the first section, applicability, we had discussed for the host lots that it would be the larger lots that would be good for this incentive. So I kept the R40 and R60 zoning districts in here, and I took out the word all. Definitions of eligible historic buildings. This is the list that was in the original draft. I kept that the same. I added this section on definitions, and I took this out of one of the bylaws from Andover, I believe, and it really just breaks down what lot is identified as what. So parent parcel, the parcel of land that is subject to the application for a dimensional special permit for historic preservation. So that's the total lot in its entirety. So that's the parcel that we're looking at before it's divided in any way. Host lot is the lot on which the historic building or structure is currently located. A host lot may be the entire parent parcel or may be created by the division of the parent parcel into a host lot. And then the second one is the new lot. Any lot or lots created by the division of the parent parcel that is not a host lot as defined above. And I know that's really technical language, but I felt that as I was going through this, we really needed definitions to put down about which lot was what, because this is a little bit of could be a confusing incentive for people to figure out, what lot is going to host the historic structure and things like that. And just internally, if this does go forward, internally on a staff level, we want to make sure we're really clear about what's what. So standard regulations. So any host lot created under this bylaw in any R40 and R60 zoning districts, so again, that's that larger parcels we're looking at, shall contain not less than 1/2 of the minimum lot area in Appendix 2 Schedule of Dimensional Requirements, and such minimum lot area shall be contiguous upland free of wetlands. So basically we're just saying that it needs to be a host lot that's created has to be 1/2 of the minimum lot area. And that's consistent with what we were talking about before. I just made it more specific here. I put in a minimum lot frontage for the host lot. So we're talking about how much frontage needs to be on a road. I put in 30 feet. That was we discussed that internally as staff to put out a number to get the feeling of, the Historic Commission, but also as we go forward, the Planning Board, Zoning Board of Appeals, and even the public. We took this because it is similar almost to what we do for panhandle lots. So we thought that that would be a good way to go. And then we also wanted to make sure that we know how much setbacks and things like that these new host lots will have to follow. So we put in basically already existing dimensional requirements for some of our smaller zones in town, which kind of makes sense. And again, we just needed to put something in there so that we could get some feedback from, again, you guys, and then also maybe the Planning Board, Zoning Board, and even the Board of Selectmen and the public. So any new host lot or new lot created under this bylaw shall have its required frontage on a public way as measured at the street line. So that was a comment that was given to us by the Planning Board. One of the Planning Board members is that we want to make sure that these have frontage on a public way. So we have that in there, and I actually took this wording from another bylaw as well. And then no new lot shall be created that does not meet the dimensional requirements of the zoning district in which the lot is located. So this new lot will not have the historic structure on it. This is basically the incentive part. So this is giving them a new lot which you could build a new house on. So we want to make sure that that meets all of the requirements of those zoning districts. Let's see, as we go on. So the special permit granting process, we basically wanted to make sure we know where these applications are going to go for internally and also for the commissions. So basically, and I think this was discussed previously, we wanted to make sure that a determination of eligibility was granted first by the Historic Commission before they went through this special permit process, because we want to make sure that it is historic before we grant them this incentive. So I added that wording in there. Findings, I didn't change really anything here. I did add some of our existing findings that the ZBA uses, which was a comment. And then I also took out, for preservation restrictions, there are some different options that the commission could go with for which type of restriction is placed on it. And so I left the detailed format here, which I thought was where the commission wanted to head with this one. So this is the historic host lot incentive. So I'll just quickly, and I know I'm going through this quickly, I'm sorry. I'll do the dimensional regulation. So again, the purpose is the same. I again added planning board ZBA as a question mark. For this one in the applicability section, I added the smaller zoning districts instead of all of them. I added R20 and R30 because we thought that this would be a better incentive potentially for smaller lots, and then the host lot incentive would be better for the larger lots. Again, I didn't change anything for the definition of eligible historic buildings. Incentive for historic building preservations. So for building coverage, I just kept what was the same in the last bylaw. So allow an additional 10% building coverage than the minimum building coverage required in the zoning district. Again, this is just, we want to put a number out there so people can review it and kind of know where we're coming from and then make changes based upon their comments. So that's there. And then building setbacks, allow setback variations of no less than 1/2 the minimum required setback in the zoning district. Again, we just really want to throw out a number out there so that people can react to it. And then again, we changed the process so that the Historic Commission can make a determination of eligibility first, because obviously we don't want to give these incentives away. We want to make sure that it is a historic structure first. The required findings, again, I added some ZBA findings that are already in our bylaw. And again, for the preservation restriction, I did the more detailed format one. So I know I just flew through that really quickly, and I'm sorry. But if you have any questions.
That's okay. You know, it's getting late, and we're approaching 2 hours, and we've got a couple of things we have to do. Ali did a tremendous amount of work here, and there's still a lot more to go. What I'd like to do is to ask you to read it over and think about your questions. If there's nothing that's burning right now to ask Ali, I'm going to ask her to continue the process, and the continuation of the process, which we'll discuss at our next meeting, but to ask Ali to set up some one-on-one meetings with the chairs of the zoning board, the ZBA, and the planning board, just to get some top-level discussion going on with staff. And then, you know, this is a very complicated situation. We don't usually generate bylaws, but at least zoning bylaws. But you know, the concept, I think, is still there, what we're trying to do, you know, to provide some kind of incentive. But we have to go back to the staff and the technical experts to see how it's worded, so we can be sure that we have something that could pass a town meeting, and that we're not creating more problems than we're trying to solve. So does anybody have any burning question that they want to ask Ali? Or if not, you know.
Frank, it's Don.
Yes, Don, go ahead.
I think it should be planning board, and I feel very strongly about that.
Yes, I agree with you, Don. But you know, Ali's she's serving multiple masters here. So, but we'll, you know, it's kind of, you know, it's a decision that's going to be made by other people. But I agree with our recommendation, the planning board. Anybody else have any question that they need to get off their chest right now?
Frank, it's Bob. I have a question related to Don's. I thought we had discussed planning board for the host lot and zoning for the dimensional, because that's what zoning deals with mainly, but maybe I missed it.
Well, that's a good point. All right, let's take that into consideration. Ally, you with me on that?
Yep, I agree. That is a really good point.
Yeah.
And Ally, also, while I've got you, this won't take but a second. The second page on dimensional, the first paragraph, building coverage, additional coverage than the minimum building coverage required. Are we talking about the minimum for that
That's
lot?
a good, I think I meant to say maximum, but I'll just double check that.
That would make more sense to me, but I may have
Yeah.
misunderstood it. Okay.
No.
I have some
Michelle?
other things, but I can call Ally and talk to her with those minor details.
Great. Michelle,
Yes, Frank.
is our December 1st meeting filled up or what?
Right now, I only have one application aside from the one you continued today.
All right, great. So let's kind of plan, guys, that on December 1st, we could probably have a more detailed discussion with Ally, all right? Okay, Ally, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I'll
You
see you
have-
guys on December 1st.
Yeah, you have to run off to your other meeting now?
I do. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I'm sorry it took so long. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we got a couple of quick announcements and things that we have to do. Back to your agenda. The second item, preservation awards. I sent out an email to everybody today. We're off and running in terms of our first meeting of the Preservation Awards Committee. What we need, and I look to Don because he's got a good eye, and is think about homes that we have approved in the within the last 10 years, if you will, that we think are worthy of a preservation award. One home I thought about was John Whalen's daughter's home over on Holloway Street, did a great job. So, think about it, and as you walk around town or think about homes that we have approved in the past that we could potentially give a preservation award, at least get an application in so we can begin the process. Okay, Erica unfortunately didn't make the meeting, and I'm still waiting for the HBDC to come up with 2 representatives. But other than that, I think we have a committee that could function in 2021. No question on preservation. The next item, adherence to the discussion of determination and review of the application requirements. Michelle, you were going to set up a meeting on that in our spare time, which is never.
Yes, I did. I did speak to Katie about it. We haven't set a date firm yet, but I will check with her again tomorrow.
Okay. Next item, which is kind of important, is the issue of I asked Bob to review the rules and reg as it refers to administrative review, at least to make some inroads in the process. I'll let Bob speak to the minute of his proposal, but the bottom line is the chair makes decisions in concert with Michelle, and we just wanted to enlarge that process to not only be the chair, but the chair and the vice chair, and also extend it to not only issues of age, but also potentially historical ages related to historical significance. So I probably gave the whole thing away, Bob, but why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, I apologize. I wasn't able to put this together as nicely as Ally did with her sort of comparable kind of thing. The red and the strike throughs and all that. But as you said, Frank, that's the idea. One, the way the bylaw is worded, or the regulation is worded now, it seems to confine an administrative determination only to whether the age of the structure is uncertain. And so I changed the IE, which means that is, to EG, which means for example, so that we could broaden that piece of it. And the other part, or second part, is to make it more than just the chair or the chair designating the vice chair, but have two reviewers, and that they would be independently inspecting the property just because, so it won't become a committee of, and that's trying to track the HVDC policy. And thirdly, that those viewers, if they do agree, then there won't have to be an application before. If they do agree that it does not require a full hearing, then they'll tell the applicant that, but that would need to be ratified by the full commission at their next hearing. And obviously, if they disagree on whether or not an application could be filed, that then gets scheduled for a hearing before the commission. And again, that's the way that HBDC and the Conservation Commission operate. So it could have been stated clearer than that, but that's the best I could do.
It's very good. It's very good. And what I'd like you guys to think about it, and again, on our meeting on the 1st, I'd like to actually make this a hearing. And Bob, I guess between you and Michelle, if we could, put it in a form that is a little bit easier for ourselves and the public to understand what we're doing. I believe, Michelle, technically, to make changes to our rules and regs, we have to have a hearing, correct?
Yes, you're correct, but I don't believe we have enough time to advertise it to be for December 1st. And
okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we just put it on the agenda for December 1st, and then when the next time we can have a hearing, we actually will do that, okay?
Yeah, it might not be until January, Frank, because I'm not sure that we would have enough time for December 15th either. We would have to have everything by tomorrow to get it to the paper to be in a time for December 15th.
I understand. Did somebody have a question that they want to ask on that?
No, I was thinking we could list it for a hearing on whenever, but if we're now too late for December 15th, or basically too late, then forget it. Let's go for January. It's been going on for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's fine. But I just want to make sure we're all comfortable with what we're doing. All right, very good. Just quickly, the next item on the old business stage, the boathouse. Long story short, guys, I think you're reading the papers. The town is considering utilization of the boathouse as the Upwell building, which would be great. What I have done is I have asked community development for funds for Eric Dre to prepare a Form B. We don't have a Form B for the property, and I'd like for us to to once again provide a motion which would re-emphasize the historical significance of the boathouse. And I provided you with a few items, one that referenced the newsletter about the Cuddy Hunk boathouse, which is on the National Register, and some information on the historic boathouse provided by Dick Ryder. Dick is the coxswain of the CG 3500 and extremely knowledgeable of the boathouse and what happened there. So unless there's some feeling to the contrary, I'm looking for a general motion that we would agree to authorize Eric Dre to proceed with the creating a Form B for the historic Coast Guard boathouse, and that we would, in fact, I had a part two and I lost my train of thought. I'm talking too much. Okay, but that he would proceed with the Form B preparation, and that we would think about potentially submittal to Mass Historic at a future date. So if I could get that motion, I would appreciate it.
I so move. That's Bob.
Thank you, Bob. We have a second?
Done, and I second it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? The public? None. We have to roll call. Mr. Lear?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes. Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Jane? Oh, Jane's gone. Don?
Yes.
Mr. Burlingame?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. We will do that. Just bear with me, folks. I'll get you out of here. I'm sorry. Status of demolition delays on the chairman's report. there's really no change other than the fact I would encourage you to drive by 154 Champlain Road. I believe the CO has been issued and the Moss family is living in the new property. I had the opportunity not only to visit the exterior of the home, but also the interior, where the Morse family has salvaged and preserved the watercolor painting, which was on the wall of the building, as well as certain artifacts from the 154 Champlain. So it is quite an interesting. And now that I'm saying that, it's probably something we could discuss for a preservation award, because he is done if the CO was issued. So it's just something to think about. Michelle, okay? Did you get me? Michelle?
I'm sorry, Frank, I was muted. I did send the letter and nomination paperwork to Mr. Moss.
Great, excellent. Thank you very much. Okay.
Can I make a comment on the demolition delays? I wanted you to know that 68 Shell, you can see from the listing that I put together, they did file for a building permit application to lift, move the main structure and demolish the other structures. Nothing's been issued yet. It's still under review. But I was made aware today of the applicant making an application to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And I'm working on getting a digital plan, a digital copy of the said plans that were submitted so that you can just have a look at what's going to replace what's there.
Very good. Michelle just stole my thunder, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. No, 68 Shell Drive. The applicant, Mr. Chickleone, has shared with me the drawings of what he plans to do with the house once he moves it. And effectively, his restoration that he is planning is to basically bring the house back to what it was when it was built. So there were some changes in dormers and things like that, which were added to the exterior of the house that he's going to remove. So when he's done with the move and his restoration, it will look exactly like it looked in whenever it was in 16 something or 17 something. Relative to that, I think you know, and you do have a copy of the letter that Mass Historic sent back to us relative to the fact that that house, in fact, is eligible. It probably never will be listed, but at least we know it is eligible as a National Register property. And I would like a motion, I'll be honest with you. If you read the letter, the Mass Historic took umbrage of our designating the house as a first period. Mr. Chartier, who you just heard, either quite violently responded to them. And I have a narrative that he has prepared, which I will share with you. And I'm looking for a motion from the members of the commission to allow me to respond to Mass Historic with Mr. Chartier's comments of why he disagrees with them. And in fact, the property 68 Shell Drive is truly a first period colonial house. He feels that what Mass Historic did by looking at some changes which were made, do not obviate the fact that the original structure was built when he and Dave Wheelock, the other archaeologist, maintained. So I don't think we're going to go anywhere with it, but Mr. Chartier and Mr. Dave Wheelock, the two archaeologists, really would like it to be to go on the record. Consistent with that, then the chronology. My goodness, I pronounced it correctly. The dating of the wood in the house will proceed. POP, Protect Our Past, Ellen Briggs and her organization is hoping to accomplish that with Mr. Chickleone. So if we date it by dating the wood by the tree rings, we'll know pretty much exactly within 10 or 20 years how old that house was. So again, I'm looking for a general motion to allow me to respond to Mass Historic Commission relative to their comments on the age of the property.
I move that you respond to Mass Historic regarding the age of the property.
Thank you. Second.
Second step.
Thank you.
Second,
Great, very
Give him
good.
hell, Frank.
Give him hell. Roll call. Mr. Lear,
Yes.
Sandy,
Yes.
Ben,
Yes.
Steph,
Yes.
Don, Steve,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. One last thing. God, I need a drink. Monomoy Theater property. Mr. Greg Clark has an application before the HBDC tomorrow at 4:30 to demolish all of the buildings on the property except the theater and the Washington residence. What can I say? He has every right to do that. Our application to Mass Historic relative to it being a National Register property had more to do not with the specific outbuildings, but the fact that it was a theatrical use and cultural center of the community for 75 years or more. So let's see where that goes. I would hope that even though the town of Chatham at a special town meeting voted not to support him, that hopefully Mr. Clark will still have some kind of theater use of that property in the future. We'll see. There's nothing more to say about it other than that. That's just where I know where we are. Last but not least, Michelle has provided you with a list of potential meetings for next year, and also the fact that we'd like to go back to our 9 and 9:30 time to start our meetings in 2021. I'd like you to look at the dates of the proposed meeting dates, and if you see any extended periods other than maybe one meeting you might be absent, you let us know so we get a sense of who's there. Yours truly is not going to Florida. I just got back from Florida. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for putting up with me. And if there's no other comments or questions from the public.
Frank, do you have a minute when the meeting is adjourned? This is Sandy.
Uh-oh. Am I in trouble, Sandy?
No, I just have a question.
Okay. All right. So if there's nothing else and no further business before the commission, entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn because we're through putting up with you for today. Keep on coming back.
I'll second that.
The chair is always open for somebody stepping in. This is not a lifetime appointment. All right, roll call. Mr. Lear.
Yes.
Sandy.
Yes.
Ben.
Yes.
Steph. Don.
Yes.
Yes.
And Steve. And the chair votes no.
Yes.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.